This is Water Elemental,
with Jolly Green.
and today we're talking about Hex Shards of Fate. We got an interesting show this week. We just had a new patch hit live alpha servers, version 8.27. We also have a cool little article that Cory wrote about drafting and his first experience with it, as well as a card coming from the second set of the game.
And I'm excited about it because we're like cutting edge for the first time in this series.
Yeah.
Usually,
We're a day behind.
they debut with stuff like early in the week, and we record later in the week because that's just how things line up. Today, they released the patch, they released a blog, and they released a new card today, which is great. So, I'm kind of curious why they're already releasing cards for the second set.
Well, they have the concept for all the cards ready for the second set. They make cards way in advance. They do that for Magic too, where they're releasing cards for Theros right now. Their newest set block, they're already 3 blocks ahead already testing.
Oh, I'm sure Magic already has that down because they have their formula pretty set in stone. But I don't know. It's just kind of, I don't want to see too much of set 2 because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. You know, I love seeing a new set for the first time. I love things being spoiled. I don't want to have to wait a year for new cards to actually come into my lexicon, you know? But
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just me. I like the wonder and merriment of new things.
And you also kind of like the hype of how is this going to work? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
But honestly, this new card, it's fantastic. I like the card, but I will never be playing it in a deck that I make.
I think that's intentional.
Its name is very apt. So
we're gonna jump into the patch first so we can get to the fun stuff. Version 8.27 came with about 6 new cards, a lot of bug fixes. Draft modes are a lot more stable. There's a lot more display timers, a lot of functionality to drafting and other tournament stuff. Hopefully they make it more stable because right now you can play 1 match and that's it.
I think that has a lot to do with people ducking out after the first round because they either don't like their deck or don't have the attention span or whatever. But that's the same as in Sealed right now. It still bugs out sometimes for me in Sealed, and I did break my promise, and I actually played a draft on the first week of release and wasn't disappointed. I cannot believe it. They're already leaps and bounds farther than they were in the first week than they were with Sealed, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. My first draft actually was recorded. I was doing it for a Sealed event video, so kind of tutorial how to do Sealed, not only in Hex, but how you can transfer it over normal card games. And you can see how awful I am at drafting still. And you can see all the stuff, like I was drafting, I was passing over some probably good cards because I was trying to keep a synergy of flyers. But it's just so easy to swarm someone on the ground now in this game, so it's like flyers aren't as potent as I'm used to, so I'm just like, well, I'm going to lose horribly.
I don't know, constructed flyers, still very good.
Drafting flyers, not so much. I did kind of pass up a lot of good board wipes for a flyer, but it was just like...
I don't know, I don't think you should draft keywords. I think you should draft power level first, and then color. Your first pack should be just purely picking out power level. That's my opinion. I don't know. I'm kind of a draft aficionado, but...
That's why I play Sealed.
Yeah.
That's why I play Sealed.
Just because I like to draft doesn't mean I'm good at it, though. So feel free to not take my advice. I just play. But anyway, next up we have the new cards for this patch. And just as always, they're mostly pretty darn saucy from what I could see. We have, all of them are rares and 1 legendary. So getting right into it, we have the Vampire King. He's a 4-cost, 2 blood threshold. He is a 3/4 with flight and life drain. He has a pretty interesting effect called, I don't know what it's called, but it says when this troop deals damage to an opposing champion, reveal a random card from their hand. If it's a troop, transform it into a vampire and put it into play under your control. Now, when it says transform it into a vampire, it actually turns it into a new card, a 2-cost, 2/2 life drain flight vampire. It retains no information from its previous carddom, and it just becomes this new thing.
And it also becomes a chick. I don't know why, but...
Yeah, it changes gender. Whatever.
Vampires are all women. But I like the idea of having a card, randomly pick a card out of your opponent's hand, taking the card, and then transforming it into something else. So even if the player wants the card back, it's not what it used to be. So if it gets sent back to his hand, or if control changes and it's, put it back into his deck, he might not even be able to play it. So you might take his win condition out of his hand, turn it into a 2/2, and be like, there you go.
Now, I'm sure it's pretty obvious for most people, but I do have a question that I would like to test out. Now, say you control the vampire from the Vampire King. It's their card. It dies. It goes to the graveyard. Does it go to yours or theirs? Now, I would assume it goes to theirs since they are the technical owner of the card, but I haven't actually played around with these new transformed cards that you take from your opponent yet. I would hope it goes to their graveyard.
Hopefully, it all depends. A lot of effect graveyard abilities are for both graveyards. I haven't seen anything that's specific towards the enemies. So cards like Crypt Lord and all that stuff will target it no matter where it is.
But regardless, I'm sure there will eventually, if not already exists that I can't think of right now, be cards that do something with your graveyard or do something with your opponent's graveyard only.
Yeah.
So I know it's not one collective graveyard, so it does matter.
Just not right now.
Yeah, just not right now.
Circle of Preservation. It's a 2-cost, 2 white threshold constant. Once per turn, you can pay 0. The next time a target card or activation would deal damage to you this turn, prevent it. Put this constant into your hand and it gets a permanent +1 cost.
Okay. I have more questions about this as well. This is Hex's version of COP, Circle of Protection. So, if you wanted to, say during the attack phase of a combat, the arrow, is that the dividing line? Like, could you... Oh, it says once per turn. Never mind. I can read. I can read. I was going to say stack this up so you can just target everything on his board, but you know what? Those first 3 letters are very important.
Yeah.
That whole reading thing.
So, if you have a creature attacking you, if you have several creatures attacking you and you activate it, since they all deal damage at the same time, can that prevent all the damage, or do you have to select a certain source?
You have to target a card or an action on the stack. So you can only do one thing. So I don't know. It's interesting.
We were talking about this while we were reading the list. The only thing I can really see this having any sort of potential against is any decks that are using very heavy spells that will deal direct damage to you. Life Siphons, probably like a Fireball of some sort card that's coming out. Anything that will channel up to deal like 10 or 11 damage that's going to hit you. That card will probably be a giant counter towards that.
Yeah,
because it's a 2-cost prevention.
The 2 cards I would sideboard this in for is Rampaging Tarask, which is the 8/1 for 5. That's red, crush speed. I'd use that, put a jump blocker in front of him, watch him disappear. I'd do it for, Life Drain. Life Siphon, whatever that card is, the purple one, 1x, do things. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I might sideboard it in against green that has the big fatties, but I'd rather have actual removal for those.
Because for 2, you get, Inner Conflict. Pretty much prevents that card from attacking or blocking.
Inner Conflict is 3, but for 2 you have Repel.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
White has a lot of answers, and this one just doesn't seem like a good enough one to me. But it does affect abilities, so, that's something that White doesn't really have a lot of protection against right now. Or actions. Basic actions. So, I don't know. It's not COP, or any variation of, but it's there. Next up we have Trial of Faith. It is a 5-cost, 2 white threshold constant. When this constant enters play, void all other cards you control and all cards in your hand. At the start of your turn, add a faith counter to this constant. Then if there are 3 or more, remove all faith counters from this constant, sacrifice it. If you do, transform each card voided with this constant into an angel and put it into play. Now, much like the Vampire King, the angels are a flight 4/4 angel. So They all turn into big fatties. How do you feel about this?
I feel very uncomfortable if I would play this, because I know if I use this card, I would probably get destroyed between those 3 turns. You go directly into top deck mode, and you gotta hope that you have a decent amount of cards in your hand, and your opponent's not playing a board wipe. Because if you even get this off and you get to play Angels, your opponent could just be like, okay, I'm just gonna Extinction. Ta-da.
I don't know. Just the flavor on this card is just oozing. If I had to think of a card named Trial of Faith and have it be true to its name, this is the absolute card. I mean, I could not make a card that says, all right, I'm just gonna, sit around for 3 turns and pray. Because that's what this card is. It's what it does. I could see a white deck, maybe white-green, that just gains a ridiculous amount of life and is just like, all right, here we go. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, I can see that, but still,
maybe
it's
shit
just...
hair, so you put a bunch of tokens into play.
That's what I was thinking. You have a lot of lower cost creatures come into play. You wipe them from the face of the earth, and they become angels, and then it's kind of a risk-reward gain. So you're not discarding a lot of heavier monsters for flyers. So you're not discarding like a lot of your heavier 8-cost 9/9s or something like that.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of weenies that you can replace and draw blockers or something like that.
Yeah. And since it's a constant, it's basic speed, so it's not like you could put this on the stack and then, or put a bunch of things on the stack and then play this. So, I mean, you are going to end up with a bunch of nothing after you play this card. So, I don't know. A deck based around it would have to be pretty impressive looking on paper for me to even try it.
Cerulean Mirror Knight. 2 cost, 1/2, 1 Sapphire Threshold. As another troop with cost equal to or greater than this troop enters play under your control, it gains a permanent. When this troop dies, draw a card.
How is this guy not Inspire?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like, keep in mind that this doesn't have the Inspire keyword, but he is an Inspire.
Yeah, the ability is word for word. When a troop with a cost of equal or greater power comes into play, blah, 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 you get this. It gets a permanent this. This guy, I mean, was it too OP? Did it synergize too well with certain cards? I mean, that the keyword on it would be so powerful that they had to be like, no, we're not even putting it on. We're just going to release it like this. Or I'm kind of hoping it's a misprint, because, I mean, why not put it in alpha and try it?
Yeah, because there's only 2 cards I really know of that use Inspire to effect, and one of them is the white card Constant that lets you give Inspire to creatures from the graveyard. So, was it that powerful that every creature coming into play after turn 3 was getting Inspire, draw a card when this card dies, and it just had so much synergy? Because I can't see any other reason to play that.
Yeah, me neither. Inspire is kind of a keyword that it's nifty.
But it doesn't synergize well with other Inspire.
Well, it kind of does. It's just the power level's like, okay, that does things. But this one's like, yeah, I'm definitely... Like, if they wipe the board, I'm fine. I'm gaining parity. It's like I'm not losing board presence because of this. I don't know. But if I were to look at this guy... I mean, I consider myself a pretty inspiring character, and he's made of freaking mirrors, so when I look at him, I see myself. So, I mean, that's pretty inspirational to me.
And then you have a man that looks like he's just made out of a bunch of mirrors, and his design looks fantastic. I see him walking on the battlefield hitting people with a sword made out of mirror. I'd be like, yeah!
Just on an art standpoint, I have seen the zombies that he's looking at on his shield. I have seen that in another card. I know I have. It's a blood card. I can guarantee that that's the art from another card on his shield.
That's even cooler. So he's on the other side.
You can see it on his hip armor.
And his codpiece. There's a face at the very bottom of the codpiece.
He's even got it on his kneecaps. I love it. This card, the art's great. It looks like it's even oil painting. It's just...
Talking about the actual card himself, fantastic. He's when any other card comes into play, you pretty much get to draw a card when they die, so sacrificing creatures has a gain for you.
Oh, this guy will see play. I guarantee it. He's good.
He's very good.
I mean, aside from the, complaining that he doesn't have Inspire, he's good. He's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Oath of Valor. It is another constant with a 1 white threshold. It says, when this constant enters play, choose a troop you control. Troops you control with that name get +2/+2. Hello, token decks.
Yeah, since there's a lot of cards that can have more than 4 in your deck, that's kind of scary. You green-white Pack Raptors, green-white, Ancestors, or blue-white Ancestors Chosen.
Shin Hair.
Yeah, Battle Hoppers. Battle Hoppers!
I mean, even, like, Dwarven Bots is a thing.
Whoa. I don't think white synergizes very well with artifacts, but that still can be an option.
I'm just listing off things that it can work with, but Briar Thorns, the Shamblers.
They still don't work, mind you. I'm going to remind you every week, they still don't work.
I know. I must be some pretty dingy code to work with, because I don't know.
It's seed
a
counters.
complicated effect.
It's the seed counters that are affecting it, which saddens me.
It's like a 3-part effect. Give it time, it'll happen.
Soon.
This card, I see it actually getting play in a token deck.
I love the idea of this card, and I might find a deck that I can put this into. Thing is, white doesn't really create too many tokens aside from angels. Angels.
But this Oath of Valor, you have to top deck it after you play Trial of Faith.
And the angels enter play.
Yeah, and they have to already be interplayed. So, I mean, there's other ways to get angels out, though. So I'm not particularly worried about it. But, heck, you might be able to just do this with mono white and call it a day.
Oh, that's funny. Just as soon as I'm like, angels,
okay, but
click, the wheels turn.
I just want to take a look at the color wheel for a second. Right now, we're trying to figure out what each color's flavor is and what each does well, what each doesn't do well, what are certain aspects of each color that they try and push. And right now, I'm getting very, very strong themes with Magic. It's just that white did a lot of enchantments. Constants are the equivalent of enchantments in this game. And, I mean, there's Opalescence, Circle of Protections with the various color, and 3 of the 5...
major functions.
Yeah, 3 of the 5 cards released this week are all white constants.
And they're all really heavy in kind of themes to it. You're seeing that white is very protective, and it has a lot of honorable qualities to it. A lot of the creatures are humans that give other people inspiration, and they're fighting the good fight. You can tell that red's very wild. It has a lot of power to it, and there's a lot of unexpected effects to it. Blue is very knowledgeable. You get a lot of draw spells, a lot of flight, a lot of
counter magic,
unknown elements to it, like the birds, the lightning bird guy, whatever. Nature, a lot of healing, a lot of mana gain, a lot of big monsters, and then you have black, which is, or blood, I should say, that's okay, everything's gonna die, and we're gonna bring it back. Or we're gonna change the way your cards work, and we're gonna curse you. So
evil,
we got
darkness, decay, that kind of theme. But I mean, it just makes sense with what we associate those colors with. I mean, when you look at purple, dark purple, you don't think of
happy
life
bunnies
and rejuvenation and springtime. You think of darkness. So I don't know. I kind of would have liked to see a surprise in one of these colors as to the color wheel, like purple to be big on life gain. Although they do have a lot of life drain, but that's not really the same thing in my opinion.
But just gain 6 health. Okay,
yeah.
Thanks. Just pouring buckets of blood on their head.
Yeah.
Gain 6 life.
But that's not absolute, because the color wheel shifts in Magic a lot. Every color has done everything, at least in certain niches. But I don't know. I like it and I don't.
That's really it for the patch. A lot of tournament changes, a lot of quality of life changes, bug fixes. Check that all out on the main website if you're looking for a card to see if it's been fixed yet. And we're going to be moving on to some other stuff. The main thing is Cory Hudson, one of the creators of Hex, has his blog.
Cory Hudson Jones, mind you. He's a 3-named fellow.
Sorry, I didn't
And
know.
he's actually a very good blogger that I read as soon as he puts out stuff, so I want to give him props because he's very entertaining, well-written, and usually has very interesting things to say. And this week is absolutely no exception.
Yeah, it's him talking about his first draft, what he put together for his first deck in order, and how he felt about it and how everything flowed. The first card he drafted on a live server was Birdo Plenty. So
he thought it was worth mentioning that. I don't know if he just really likes this card or what, but it's a ball.
funny.
Although I don't know if it's all that good in draft, because say you block their huge fatty, I mean, you only have 40 cards in the deck. I mean, you could easily deck yourself up if you're not careful with this guy.
Yeah, but you have the huge card advantage, so...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a good card. You just have to be super careful with it.
But the one thing we wanted to mention is the fact that he is putting out a card from the second set that is named Jankbot.
Oh, man. Another card that lives true to its name.
So, in TCGs, Jank essentially means unbalanced, kind of put together last minute, not synergizing very well. A lot of things that means it shouldn't work, but for some reason it does.
Yeah, like a 73 card deck in a standard format that's all one-ofs. That's jank.
And if it wins, it's super jank.
Yeah, it's just something that, even if it does work, it really shouldn't have in the first place.
But would
So-
you like to...
That's what this card is. He's a 4-cost 5/6. Now that's pretty darn good for a colorless card, hands down. But he has a very large caveat to him. He says you can include this troop in your deck only if it contains 150 more cards or 60 if it's in a draft or sealed. So there's that. It says when he attacks, play 3 cards from your deck at random. Just play them. So
he doesn't have to deal damage. You have to draw him out of a 150 card deck, and play him, and then able to swing. So
by no means is he a reliable win condition, but he has the best flavor text of a card I have seen in card games, and that is saying something because I love flavor text. Okay, here we go. Initiate synergistic subroutine. Error. No synergy detected. Yeah.
So pretty much like that tops one of the best moments in Hex so far. Last week there was a small note in the patch that we forgot to mention where one of the cards would have double instances of flight showing on him, and they said that they had to nerf him because he can't fly that high.
Yeah.
So the humor in this game it's subtle, it's nice, it's great nods, but it's not overwhelming.
And they're not taking it too seriously. Like, just in the name, Jankbot. Obviously, jank probably doesn't mean anything in this universe, but it means something to card players. So they're incorporating card player jargon into various cards, and I just love it. They're not taking themselves too seriously.
It's like the backer cards, the Spectral Lotus and the Black Tiger. To most people, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It just seems like they're kind of putting some weird things together. But if you're in the card game know-how, you would know that those are referencing 2 cards. The Black Lotus, one of the most expensive cards ever made in the history of card games, and the Spectral Tiger, the other one.
Yeah, those are probably the most 2 lucrative cards in the game. One's from the WoW TCG, the Spectral Tiger, which... if you play WoW and you've seen the Spectral Tiger, you're like, how'd you get that? Those things sold out of the pack for, what were they, $500? Right around
we
there,
made
500
about
to 1,000?
We made 600 on ours when we sold ours.
Yeah.
So something around there.
And, as far as cards out of the pack being worth that much, never seen anything like it. I doubt I'll ever see anything like it again. Because that card was from the first set of the WoW TCG, and right out of the pack was worth $500 to $1,000, depending on where you were selling it.
It was in the 4th or 5th set. I remember the first set had the tabard, the trinket, and the something else. But it was.
You're absolutely right. It was 4th or 5th set, maybe even 3rd set.
But mounts
You're
in that
absolutely
game were
right.
expensive.
Yes,
They were worth a lot.
Absolutely, they were. And I wasn't around. I didn't play Magic when it first launched. I was born in the late 80s, and Magic first launched in the early 90s, so I was more concerned with Pokemons. So I didn't really care about Magic or even know about it to see whether Black Lotus or even any of the mocks, the Power 9, I don't know what it was going for on the secondary market fresh out of the pack. Because, it was like the first serious card game.
Yeah, let us know. I kind of honestly want to know how much they were going for.
Yes, please. Like, if anybody remembers what a fresh Black Lotus from either Alpha, Beta, or Unlimited, what either one of them cost fresh out of the pack. I think Unlimited was actually quite a bit after Alpha. Let's say Alpha, Beta, because I'm very curious to see how that stacked up.
On a strange note, I was reading something that for the longest time, because that you only could get one land per booster, lands were extremely scarce. So that's something that's kind of funny, because if you think about it now, lands, you find a land on the ground, you kind of rip it up, use it as a toothpick, you do something with it. But back then, it's like, you have a swamp, I'll trade you.
Hey, that's what things were valued at back then. That's
I wonder if we're going to get an unlimited supply of shards, just period. Or we have to open them up.
I don't want to have to pay for it, but I wouldn't mind actually. You know what? The art doesn't matter on a shard because you're the only one that can see it, and it's only in your hand. Land in Magic, you put on the table, you display it while you're playing it. Shards really don't mean anything art-wise in this game, but oh well. Anyway, that's what Cory Hudson-Jones has to say on his article titled "What's on Draft." Read it; it's good stuff. Next up, I want to talk about something. Another blog article I read came out yesterday from Hex TCG Pro. It's called a Metagame Analysis Challenge Series Preview. It's by John Tata. Also another very good article. It has a series of decks in which he believes are a representative. Yeah, a representative of a metagame, which is 5 or 6 different decks that represent the majority of what people are playing on a competitive basis. And this is for 60-card standard PvP. So first up, we have the aggro deck. Go ahead and tell them about that.
The Mono Ruby aggro essentially is using Polka, the red Ruby, create a 3/1 elemental card, and synergizing with a lot of fast, heavy hitting creatures. Savage Raiders, a lot of Kindling Skarn, Ember Spire Witch for counter effects, and pretty much bullying down your opponent using a lot of fast, heavy-hitting creatures that are not going to stop.
Yeah, this is just mono red, Ruby, real fast. This kind of deck hasn't changed a lot since the inception of Alpha. Crushing Blow is one card that I've seen enter Rampaging Terrask, but it's been pretty similar to mono red builds that I've seen. Next up we have the Ruby Wild Blitz that he calls it. It's just red green. It's the same thing, just with a little more green flavor to it. It's got Gas Troll. It's
Wild Growth.
Got Crush. Oh no, it's got Wild Growth is the card I was looking for. Yeah, it's still very similar. It's got Oakenhenge Ceremony. It's, in my opinion, a little bit more stable. But then again, you have to rely on a balanced
hand
Ruby base, Ruby Wild ratio. When I had this deck, a lot of things that I saw come up where you have one Ruby and you end up drawing 2 Rage Fires, that becomes a problem.
Or if you have a Gas Troll and you can't actually get his effect to activate from anything.
Yeah. So we have mono red aggro, red green aggro. Those 2 colors are probably the best right now for killing you early.
There's Arachnophobia, which is a red-black deck using Zarad Venoscorn. He's actually one I rarely see, but when I do, it's a very scary situation. He uses a lot of character control where he's going to start killing off your creatures and then building a lot of smaller creatures on his side of the field using things like, Zeratot Inquisitor, Lord Alexander the Courageous, Zereth the Bloodlord. So he's going to be doing a lot of, I'm going to start destroying things on your side of the field, killing things off, and I'm going to start building my side of the field to kind of swarm you. And with Lord Alexander paired with, other smaller creatures with a higher cost to it, he's going to start bringing some speed to the deck.
Now, yeah, this isn't going to get right out the gate and blast your face off. It's in his mid-range section, and yeah, it's pretty much what it does. It kind of doesn't do a whole lot early. It waits to get a few decent mid-range guys out. It has burn, it has murder. It controls you early, hopefully, and then puts out a bunch of 3/4 drops that are probably the best in their curve for, at least in my opinion, for blood. I don't want to get too into it because I want you to read this guy's article. I just want to kind of glance over some of these things to show what people are building. I haven't seen I haven't seen this version of his Arachnophobia deck, but I have seen a lot of the first 2 decks we talked about.
We have another red wild monster deck. This one's more focusing on bigger creatures and putting them into play a lot faster. A lot of the decks that kind of are synergized, you can kind of see a theme of it's either using red, red-green, or red-black. We're not seeing any other colors specifically in these earlier decks. A lot of the later decks are using a lot more blood involved, but they're not enough to actually make it useful to play like any other colors. Not enough blue and not enough white.
I don't know. I kind of want to test at least 3 of these decks versus my mono white life drain deck, my life gain, because that's the best deck I've built so far, and I haven't seen anything else like it. So I don't know.
Even your artifact deck kind of beats the norm a bit.
That was more fun than anything. I'm waiting for more dwarves and artifacts that are playable to actually show up. But this is another mid-range deck. It's got a little bit of ramp with the Howling Brave. You want to get out like a a 5-drop on turn 4, a 4-drop on turn 3, something like that, and get them rolling, because they kind of have a effects that make them better as you keep them on the board. The big kill condition is maybe getting 2 of your mid-range creatures out and then casting a Gore Feast of Cog to Pedal and getting 2 attacks in 1 turn. Yeah, Cogsteve, and just smashing them down, hopefully by turn 5 or 6. It also has Crash of Beasts, Heat Wave to keep the low guys out of your wheelhouse, and Burn. So it's just got more control for the early game, and it just wants to get you with better, bigger creatures out before you can be killed by things like red wild aggro and mono red aggro. So it's a decent deck. I want to try it. It looks very solid. Now we get into some control decks.
A lot of green control decks that stop you from playing cards so you can build up enough mana to drop an Eye of Creation and swarm an opponent.
Yeah, green, white, red here is a lot of theme.
But check out the article, guys. There's a lot of decks, a lot of stuff that we don't want to cover, so you guys have to go check out the thing, read about it. You know, after seeing this, you're going to probably see an increase of those types of decks, so you kind of want to build around that if you're trying to test out decks. So
yeah, I hope he's not trying to force a metagame here. I don't think he would be, but I just want to see a natural metagame develop, one that's not like, you know, Tarmogoyf for years and years and years. Because I don't want to see the same decks over and over and over and over and over. I'm going to be curious to see how they do their formatting here for the future, whether it's just going to be one set, tournaments, kind of like a block thing, whether they're going to have like 3 sets are valid in standard tournaments. It's going to be interesting moving forward, so we'll see.
Yeah. That's really it for this episode, guys. If you like the show, go ahead and share it. We need, trying to spread the word best we can. I usually don't plug that sort of thing, but especially with an alpha, it's kind of hard to reach out to the people. And we want to get your opinion. We love your opinion. We love discussing stuff. We want to bring you in on the discussion. If you guys have any questions, you're full free to put it in the comment section down below. Email us at spasticgaming@gmail.com or send it on our Facebook or Twitter. All the stuff is down below. We love that stuff. We want you guys to get more involved. We want to get like a community going, so soon enough we can have that guild stuff, have a huge group we can talk to, have a bunch of fun.
Also, we will have links to Cory Hudson-Jones' article and John Tata's article in the comments, so please go ahead and read them and let you know whether our analysis of said articles and commentary was, right, wrong, or just plain stupid.
Most likely stupid in my case.
Yeah, but that's us.
Anyways, this has been Water Elemental.
And Jolly Green.
And see you guys next time.